Kunja Bihari Radha Madhavan Jaya Radha Madhavan Kunja Bihari Radha Madhavan Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Prabhupada Paramahamsa Parivrat Gachajasto Tarasatta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shilabhai Charanarvin Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandi Biti Founder Charya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainitai Gaura Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and the loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Tamasloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. The Bhagavad Gita actually is on my right side tomorrow. We continue from Canto number 1, chapter 8, entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti. Yesterday we did text 36, so today text 37. Api adya nas tvam sva site hita prabho jiha sasi svit surido anujivinaha yesham na chanyad bhavataha padam bujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. Apyajanastvam swakrite hita prabho jihasasi switsurido nujivinaha yesham rasanyad bhavata padam bujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. Abhyadyanastvam swakrite hita prabho jihasasi switsurido nujivinaha yesham nachanyad bhavata padam bujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. Aphyadyanastvam swakrite hita prabho jihasasi switsurido nujivinaha yesham nasanyad bhavata padam bujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam.
अपाद्यनास्त्वं स्वकृते हितो प्रभो
Apyayanastvam swaktihetita prabho.
जिहाससि स्वसुहृदोऽनुजीविना
Jihasasi switsurido nujivinaha.
येषं न चाद्यान्यद्भवत् पदम्बुज
Yesham nasanyad bhavata padam bhujat.
परायणं राजसु योजितं तसम्
Parayanam rajasuyojitam hasam.
अप्यजनस्त्वां स्वकृते हिता प्रभो
Apyayanastvam swakrithehita prabho.
जिहाससि स्वेत् सुहृदोऽनुजीवना
Jihasasi switsurido nijivinaha.
येषां न चान्यद्भवता पदाम्बुज
Yesham nasanyad bhavata padam bhujat.
परायणं राजसु योजितां हसन्
Parayanam rajasuyojitam hasam.
अप्यद्दनस्तं सपिते हिता प्रभु
Adyayanastvam
स्वकृते
swakriheta
हिता प्रभो
prabho.
जिहाससि चित्सुहृद अनुजीवना
Jihasasi switsurido nujivinaha.
येषं न सन्नत् भवता पदम्बुज
Yesham nasanyad bhavata padam bhujat.
परायणं रजसो हजितं हसम्
Parayanam rajasuyojitam hasam. Api, if, adya,
Adya
today, naha,
Naha
us,
As
tvam,
Tvam
you,
You
swakrita,
Swakrita
self-executed,
Self-executed
ihita,
Ihita
all duties,
All duties
prabho,
Prabhu
O my Lord,
O my Lord
jihasasi,
Jihasasi
giving up,
Giving up
swit,
Sweet
possibly,
Possible
suridaha,
Suridaha
intimate friends,
Intimate friends
anujivinaha,
Anujivina
living at the mercy of
Living at the mercy of
yesham,
Yesham
of whom,
of whom
na,
Na
not,
Not
cha,
Cha
and
and
yet
yet
anyone else,
anyone else
bhavataha,
Bhavataha
your,
Your
padam ambujat,
Padam Ambujat
from the lotus feet,
From the lotus feet
parayanam,
Parayanam
dependent,
Dependent
rajasu,
Rajasu
unto the kings,
Unto the kings
jag, yojita,
Yojita
yojita,
Yojita
engage in
Engage in
amhasam,
Amhasam
enmity.
Enmity
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us? Kindly repeat after me. O my Lord,
O my Lord
you have executed
You have executed
all duties yourself.
all duties yourself.
Are you leaving us today?
Are you leaving us today?
Though we are completely dependent
Though we are completely dependent
on your mercy
on your mercy
and have no one else
and have no one else
to protect us.
to protect us.
Now when all kings
Now when all kings
are at enmity
are at enmity
with us,
with us,
purport. The Pandavas are most fortunate because with all good luck they were entirely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune. But in the case of our transcendental relation with the Lord, it is a most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on Him. The material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. But the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. The false attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of material of uh, of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Mm. Beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the present age, they're trying to overcome the laws of nature. They're trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, but at the same time, depend completely on the Lord. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of this standard of civilization. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified, both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is, therefore, to become dependent on the will of the Lord, uh, instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anat,
Anatha.
anatta. Yeah, anat, anatta. Uh,
Orphan.
Nat means Lord, like uh, Nataraj.
Nataraj is different term, Maharaj. Nataraj is dancing one.
Huh?
Nataraj means dancing.
Nataraj. Okay. Yeah. There's Nata and there's Nata.
Yeah.
Yes. So what's an example of uh, Jagannath, Lord of the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nata means Lord.
Yeah. Natha means Prabhu.
So and Anatta means without a
Yeah.
means orphan.
Orphan.
Yeah, like it is mentioned. As Prabhupada mentions here, Anatta means or without any guardian. Whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called Sanata. There's Anatta and Sanata, or those having someone to protect them. We're all Sanata. We are meant to be. Therefore, we must try to be Sanata so that we can always be protected from the unfavorable condition of material existence. Mm. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. Nicely put, huh? Material nature, material world, material life, material, everything material, material relationships is confusing, is perplexity. Properly selling, this is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad Gita therefore directs us, 7:19, that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudev is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. This or that is the sign of a Mahatma. All the members of the Pandava on the of the Pandava family were Mahatmas in householder life. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the head of these Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad Gita and all the Puranas, specifically the Bhagavat Purana, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi, therefore, felt such separation like a thunderbolt, and the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition, and the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. Translation again, O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us? Now, when all kings are at enmity with us, very important question. Uh, so, very nicely elaborated by Srila Prabhupada, this theme of dependence. Uh, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, our malady, our disease, our material disease is that we think ourselves independent. We have forgotten our original nature, which is actually meant to be dependent. Mm. When we say of Prakriti, Prakriti actually means, generally refers to material nature that is created by Krishna. Uh, and this Prakriti is not independent. It is working under the stringent laws that Krishna has created, actually, referred to as the stringent laws of material nature. uh, Everyone is controlled. Actually, we are unaware, but every single moment, every second, every moment, that is part of the whole cosmic arrangement. Why are there so many demigods? Because demigods are controlling different parts of our bodies, isn't it? Some demigod controlling the blink of the eyes. Another one is controlling, you know, the scratching of the ears, whatever. Stomachs. So many parts are there in the body. Uh, very, very intricate. We we cannot imagine. Very intricate arrangement is there. We are completely under the control of material nature. But we, due to our illusion, we tend to forget. Uh, and Krishna gradually, that is built into material nature, gradually makes us remember, especially through old age and disease. We don't want to be sick. We don't want to be suffer. We don't want to grow old, but it is forced upon us. Uh, so this is a very great lesson, which most people, even up until the moment they die, they don't understand that uh, that we are meant to be uh, dependent. Our nature, our constitutional position, our constitutional nature is that we are dependent on nature, and ultimately, because nature is dependent on the Lord or is created by the Lord, so we are dependent on the Lord. We're dependent on Krishna. At the same time, we are also meant to be active or to act uh, based on what is actually prescribed. Uh, we hear from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, prescribed duties. Narada Muni gives a whole presentation on this prescribed duties of human race, human civilization. So the Pandavas are um, ideal example of um, those who are dependent on the Lord, and because of that um, understanding, and because of that, uh, because their activities uh, were demonstrating their dependency on the Lord, therefore they are referred to here by Srila Prabhupada as Mahatmas. Uh, there's Mahatmas and Duratmas. Uh, uh, Mahatmas are those who understand their position as totally dependent on the mercy of the Lord. If one develops that kind of uh, understanding, regardless of what may happen in one's life, he remains always uh, without uh, without fear, isn't it? So in the purport, Prabhupada explains how modern day uh, so-called material advancement in wanting to conquer space, they're spending actually huge amounts of money in uh, in trying to go to different planets, uh, but uh, they're forgetting their real nature as um, being dependent on the Lord. um, so, how to develop this feeling of dependency? Is there a particular way to develop feeling of dependency?
Should be.
Huh?
Should be.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We have to ask Pandavas how they did it.
Pandavas are, yeah, the prime example that is being cited here. So what did they do? That is one of, because Pandavas, they are Kshatriyas by nature, and that's of course one of the um, one of the lacking principles in our. Actually, we don't call them Kshatriyas. They're our present day leaders. I was going to say Kshatriyas. They're not Kshatriyas. Uh, One of the foremost characteristic of a Kshatriya is that before he does anything, he'll consult with the Brahmanas. He's dependent on the Brahmanas. And of course, the Brahmanas are dependent on Krishna. So that means that actually the Kshatriyas, the leaders, especially those in leadership position means if I do something that's not correct, leadership position means I have dependence. Uh, and I cannot properly serve, I cannot properly do justice to those dependents unless I myself understand the principle of dependency. That is a special feature of Vedic kings, Kshatriyas. They know the principles of dharma and they will act only on the principles of dharma. And before, for example, before declaring war, because sometimes you have to declare war, one will, there's so many guidelines that are there actually, and one of those guidelines is to consult with Brahmanas. Means one who is anxious to perform activities, only activities that will be in line with and approved by, and therefore receive the mercy of the Lord, isn't it? When we act independently, we're not pleasing Krishna. So we cannot attract. And the whole, I mean, the example that Prabhupada gives also in the purport, the whole modern civilization is a prime example of independence. Prabhupada uses some very nice expressions, how in general, the whole modern experiment, we could say, the whole modern um, attempt of becoming so-called advanced, isn't it? Leaders, modern day leaders are promoting and making propaganda for becoming advanced and claiming to be advanced also. But if we analyze closely, what is that advancement? Isn't it? The whole, I mean, there has never been, it has been established that there has never been such a large number of scientists in the world than today. People have access to higher education. There's so many people with PhDs. Usually it used to be like very rare to find somebody with a PhD. It used to be very rare to find somebody who was a millionaire. Nowadays, so many people are millionaires. What is, you know, nowadays the fashion is to become billionaire, multi-billionaire. Not only 1 million, but many millions, billions, multi-billionaire. But what is the use of becoming, uh, billionaire or multi-billionaire? What is the use of having, double, triple, quadruple PhDs? Many people have more than one PhD also because now it's quite common to get a PhD. uh, but what have all of this brain, what have all of these intellectuals done in terms of the present condition of the world today? We are on the verge of World War III. At any time, actually, it's like in process. In process. We cannot. even in so-called good times, we're in danger because we're completely under the grips of material nature. But when we deviate from what is prescribed in the Shastra, when we act independently, then we create more and more havoc. That's what Prabhupada is telling here, right? Yeah. Uh, the more, yeah, he refers to uh, the more we forget our actually our actual position and responsibility, then we create a material condition of life which is most uh, complicated, the most undesirable perplexity, which is which is actually what is the condition in the world today. We can experience this ourselves individually, as we can see actually in the world. There's so many confused people, so many, uh, you know, I mean, every day people are committing suicide. Suicide is a major problem in the world today because people are not properly uh, trained, not in proper knowledge, uh, not having proper guides to show them what is um, what is the goal of life, what is the purpose of life, etc. People living under very horrible, modern day 21st century. Here we, here we are in the 21st century, and we have the most deplorable conditions with hundreds, thousands, millions of people actually who are living in poverty, who are living hellish lives. We cannot imagine. Most of us, because we don't hear about it so much. So the conditions in the world today have been created because of this very point which is being uh, elaborated here by Srila Prabhupada, and which Kwenkuti Devi is referring to, that without this understanding of one's full and complete dependence on the Lord, then there is danger at every step, and we are in a very uh, dangerous position. So, of course, even somebody who develops, like devotees, are the ones who are meant to develop dependency on the Lord. Still, there is danger because that's the nature of the material world. But the Lord is, isn't it, as he demonstrated with the Pandavas, he is inclined to help his devotees, to assist his devotees. It doesn't mean that his devotees will not be experiencing difficulties. As a matter of fact, some of the Lord's most confidential associates have had to suffer greatly. And that is the situation for all of us who have uh, come here in this material world. And our only uh, solution actually is to take shelter of the Lord, to understand our our position. We have many examples in the Shastra where when uh, when that is done, when people in general are trained to actually follow the good directives that are there in the Shastra, when they're fortunate to have good leaders within society, then society can become peaceful. People can be happy and strive for what is meant to be the primary goal and purpose of life, which is, of course, not at all the situation in modern day society, and that is the primary reason why the devotees of the Lord who have this knowledge, who have this understanding, strive uh, to introduce this knowledge to the general mass of people and to leaders as well, so that there can be proper guidance and leadership in the world. Otherwise, it is but a hellish uh, situation that is created. Mm. Yes,
So you put that question that how we develop that
dependency.
dependence consciousness.
Yes,
So I found that the ignorance, which is ultimately cover every living entity when we are in the material world, is the cause of the illusion that we can be independent.
yes,
So then, when we can dissolve, when we can remove that ignorance, then naturally we will experience our original spiritual nature, which is dependent, which is
yes,
jiva, prakriti type of uh, jiva we are.
yes,
So to develop, we don't have to develop the understanding of dependence, but it appears when we remove all the layers of ignorance which
arrangements.
are
Yes,
explained in the Bhagavatam, explained in the Bhagavad Gita,
yes,
and how Krishna is removing Arjuna's
illusion, ignorance.
ignorance
Yeah,
practically. He just started to chastise him. You think you are very learned, but
mm. Yes,
the wise man doesn't, you know.
correct.
So he's just immediately start to show for Arjuna, who is a little bit proud, I will independently solve this problem for myself.
Yes,
You do whatever you want, you can fight, but sorry, it's not for me.
mm.
And Krishna shows, no, 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 no. You are in ignorance. You have to remove that ignorance because how you've got your this contamination. He asked first, how.
Mm. Yes,
So that shows that we have to be very careful not to be contaminated if we have some knowledge and have to remove all the ignorance layers, which is generally three tattvas.
right.
Who am I? That is the first one. We have to know who is the supreme person,
Yes,
word for being or leader or superior,
yes,
and then and the way how we develop again that relationship. And the fourth one is very important: how to protect ourselves.
yes, yes.
What are the obstacles? So these four knowledge we have to cultivate, which is very interesting that I heard from a class that not all the sampradayas teach the fourth one.
How to protect
Yeah, the
ourselves
protection
from.
is very specific feature of our sampradaya to teach how to protect against aparadas, against again coming back to this ignorant situation.
Yes. So yes, very good point. I mean, how to develop this understanding or feeling of dependency is simply by awakening our original understanding and knowledge of who we are.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that is mentioned, of course, in so many places. In the second verse, now today I don't have the Bhagavad Gita, but chapter 7, text number 2, you can find it. Text 7:2 is actually giving the what is the definition of knowledge. So, without proper knowledge, uh, uh, without proper knowledge means ignorance. Ignorance is the absence of knowledge. So, by the cultivation of knowledge, which knowledge means actually connected, as you rightly mentioned, with tattva, isn't it? tattva, knowing, as nicely explained by, for example, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the Dasamula tattva, knowledge of the Krishna tattva, knowledge of Jiva tattva, which is, what is that verse, 7.2? Read it. Jnanam.
Jnanam teham sa vijnanam idam vakshami asesat asesataha yajnatva neha bhuyo nyaj gnatva gnatavyam avishishyate
Translation.
avasishyate.
Yeah, translation.
I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know.
Yeah. Actually, this particular verse is very clearly, very nicely defining what is actual knowledge. In the context of education, that the verse is very important because modern education is mostly referring to material knowledge. But unless one cultivates both material and spiritual knowledge, one will uh, not be successful. One will be confused. So, uh, this aspect of protection is also interesting because Prabhupada makes the following statement where he explains that one of the important reasons why we chant the holy name, why we are meant to chant 16 rounds, is that in Kali Yuga, especially, the presence and the forces of the modes of material nature are extremely strong. And unless we chant 16 rounds, we will not be sufficiently protected from Maya. So we are living in a world of Maya, and we are constantly being uh, attacked in so many different ways because of the presence of demoniac elements in the world. In the world, the whole atmosphere is extremely, as we know, polluted in so many ways. I mean, is physically polluted. The air is polluted, the water is polluted, the food is polluted, everything is polluted, and it's also polluted in terms of consciousness, isn't it? Majority of people are not following the principles of dharma. They don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. And therefore, it's like if somebody goes to an area where there's like been an epidemic, unless you protect yourself, unless you wear a mask, maybe if you go in some place and it's heavily polluted. So our means of protection is especially actually the chanting of the holy name. And also there are many ways to be protected also by living in and being in the company of devotees, isn't it? That is the understanding of the Sankirtan movement. Our acharyas explained that actually in Kali Yuga, it's extremely difficult, practically impossible, to make spiritual advancements simply on our own. We need the good association and support of other practicing devotees. So congregational chanting of the holy name means performing activities with other devotees as well who can help us, who can protect us in different ways. So yes, so in other words, the best um, Prabhupada would explain what is the best welfare activity that we can perform
To give them Harinam.
to give knowledge. Yeah. Um, Beginning with the chanting of the holy name, which actually gradually purifies the consciousness, elevates us, helps us to actually understand. And so That is one of the foremost duties and responsibilities of Brahmanas and of Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas are meant to have the qualities of a Brahmana. Uh, Brahmana is very broad-minded. Brahmana by nature is um, cultivating knowledge, and he is meant to actually distribute that that knowledge, especially transcendental knowledge. But Brahmana also has material knowledge. He will he will know when we're doing something that is right or something that is not right. He will know when we should be, what is a more ideal time, for example, to eat food and what kind of food we should be eating. Brahmana is meant to be well versed in both uh, spiritual science and also material sciences, because there are Shastra is having both of these levels, isn't it? That is called Paravidya and Aparavidya. So Paravidya specifically referring to spiritual transcendental knowledge, which is absolutely essential. But it is also important because we're here in the material world, we have this material body, we're dealing with the material nature, to know about what is called material knowledge, material sciences, which unfortunately in modern day society we are devoid of both. We have, in general, leaders in the world today are very much lacking in both spiritual knowledge and material knowledge. We are promoting so-called economic development all over the world, simply exploiting more and more actually material nature, more and more the whole modern experiment. That's what happens actually. If we don't follow Shastra, if we're not dependent on Shastra, on the knowledge that is given by Krishna in the Shastra, then we speculate, we experiment. The whole modern episode, the whole modern, you know, for the last practically 200 years is experimental. And experimenting means it is built in, it will be failure. Because it means, actually, this is one of the, uh, you know, when one doesn't depend on the Lord, that means he depends on himself. He thinks that I know better than anyone else, and even there are attempts to, that's ongoing right now, to manipulate or to change nature. Uh, this whole thing about, for example, manufacturing food, producing food in a laboratory. This is sheer foolishness. And they're doing it. Actually, they can do it because they have the technology and the science. But actually, that is not the way to produce food. They're doing so many things. They're spending so much money, wasting so much time, and what is the end result? You know. So all such attempts that are uh, experimental, uh, they are. We can expect that they will be failures because they're experimental activities uh, are motivated in so many different ways, and again, the whole uh, scenario which is unfolding every single moment in our modern day society, and it will unfold, it will come to a point where actually it will, as they say, explode in our face, isn't it? There are so many uh, irregularities and so many catastrophes that actually that are taking place. We have been abusing. It's like when you abuse people, um, if you talk badly against somebody or neglect somebody or exploit somebody, that person will at some point not be able to tolerate, isn't it? So we've been abusing and exploiting actually Mother Nature, this planet, uh, and people on the planet as well. Because when we don't know what is the when we're not having proper knowledge, then we do all kinds of um, activities which are based on adharma, and whatever we do that is based on adharma ends up in uh, disturbing and chaotic kind of conditions. Uh, so therefore, that is why the Lord comes. The Lord um, uh, gives us these literatures, this knowledge to actually um, understand the proper way of doing things, and that is that is what uh, the devotees are meant to do, to introduce the proper understanding, to give the proper knowledge, to give people an opportunity. Of course, ultimately, it's up to every individual and every leader in the world to take this up or not. But
Yeah, there is a story of Vena, King Vena,
King Vena,
and that shows that how someone become very proud and just destroyed not just himself but all the nation becomes very, very poor, and they start after he died also.
yes,
So Prithu Maharaj have to come and convince Mother Earth, please
yes,
give again.
correct,
And that is the way how we can convince Mother Earth. Okay, we need some things we are living in this temporal world, but we have to attract her, not force.
yes,
Like
yes,
a mother gives so many things if the child is attracting her, protecting nature, but
yes, yes,
cannot give the same if we are forcing her.
yes, yes.
And that you told that the knowledge itself is very, very important, but the knowledge have a nature. It can make people proud. I know better. Many times they come to the wise person, and it could be become proud. So the protection against this proudness
Yes.
is very nicely explained by Lord Kapila.
Mm.
How you have to protect your your innocent nature. You have to associate with others, have to feed others,
Mm.
have to very friendly with everyone.
Yes.
Have to keep the association, and not just with a few persons, but practically with the nature.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to ask, anyone was something need, please just come, I give it free, I give gifts. And then the person is protected because of this association.
Yes. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, you are telling about the suicide. Today, many people are committing suicide. So, generally, we are on the ship. So, I saw many people commit suicide. So, by seeing them, we are also feel very frustrated because we are not getting the prasadam or association.
Right.
Even we cannot complete our 16 rounds sometimes because
Right.
sometimes weather is very bad. The rolling is
He
going on.
works. He works. His profession is people go on ship, and
Yeah, they go
what?
for committing
Well,
suicide.
they
They're
because
feeding the shark.
they live. They work
Feeding the
on ship
sharks.
for even generally 6 months, but during COVID time, we were telling like up to 1 year, huh?
Yes, Maharaj.
1 year and 15 days.
Yes, Maharaj.
1 year and 15 days you're on a ship mostly, and so it's like very harsh conditions, very difficult, especially for devotees who are lacking in association, and because there are generally not many devotees on the ship, usually none.
No one usually.
Yeah, yeah, and even very few people are vegetarian.
Only two people.
Only two, yeah. So yeah, very difficult condition, but therefore one has to be taking necessary steps to remain actually to remain strong under those conditions. Most people, yeah, most people who commit suicide is because obviously they're not strong. They don't have the proper understanding, proper knowledge, proper support, etc., like that. But devotees, um, even though physically we may not, I mean, we can find the needed support because all of us in the material world we need to feel supported. We need association, which we uh, need to learn that can take place in different ways. Uh, it's like when we have these transcendental literatures and we read, that is one way of associating. Of course, we're physically associating with interacting with other devotees is another way, or simply hearing also from from our acharyas, hearing classes like that is also associating. Uh, so yes, whether it's so many of the modern day, let's say, activities or professions are extremely taxing, very very difficult on the mind, on the consciousness of individuals, and because most people are not having proper understanding, therefore they cannot tolerate. They have a very lower level of tolerance. You know, that's why tolerance rather, tolerance is um, one of the important qualities that a devotee is meant to patience and tolerance, which is uh, there in the nectar of instruction. Yeah.
Maharaj, when we choose our career, we have many things to consider.
Yes.
And if you see that in some way we changed our life or we need some other values, we can change the career. Not like totally, but consider what I need. My nature is I need freedom. I know how nice it is to be on a ship because I was sailing, so I know. But also it's you become alone. So need to reconsider what kind of career I can maintain myself, whoever is dependent on me, and being in the association of devotees. To find a similar, but almost similar career, which I can use my nature. I can get whatever I need, but still we are more in the association of devotees. So maybe just sit down and consider what different career can I continue, not immediately, but thinking a few months, preparing, and then change. It also could be a direction.
Of course, many of the careers in modern day society are one chooses a career generally without knowing or understanding what one is getting into. It's like before you know it, you've gone like through 5 years of training and study, and you spend so much money.
Proper study.
Huh?
Lack of proper study.
Yeah.
Yes, I
You have
mean,
Because
to
in
choose.
Vedic system there was saying that Guru will define that who which category he falls.
yes.
I mean either as Brahmana, as Kshatriya, as a Sudra or Vaishya. So he has to decide. Guru has to decide according to his activities and his nature of
Correct.
working.
Yeah.
But it is lacking
Yeah. Yeah.
nowadays.
No, it is. It is not. It is more than lacking. It is absent. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally absent.
So,
Practically speaking.
so
Yes, that's an important feature in the Vedic culture. That before this is specifically mentioned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that before a young boy reaches the age of 15, his varna is decided. His
defined.
according to his nature, what varna, and then according to what varna he has, what varna he belongs to, then education is determined based on varna, and also ashram is determined based on varna. So that in modern day society, people, I mean, because we don't have brahmanas, I mean, even within our own society, we're not doing this up to now. And we're not doing this up to now largely because we are not, I would say, uh, we're not understanding the need and the importance of living in a more natural environment, which is actually for the majority of devotees is meant to be a village environment. And it's only when we live in a village where we have to interact with nature and we're forced in a more natural automatic way, we're forced to understand more about our our nature, our limitations. You know, when we're in the city, when we're surrounded by modern, machines and gadgets and whatnot, we don't really understand our nature. We can, because everything is at the tip of the finger. We just have to press button, this and that. But when you're out in nature, when you're more left to your physical um, condition and also in terms of interaction with others, then we come more easily to understand what are our strong points and weak points, and which is directly connected, of course, with our nature, and we understand more easily also our varna, and so that is the situation. Yeah, today this whole aspect of knowledge or education, which is very prominent in the Vedic culture, is absent today, and therefore we have very um, awkward and difficult situations. But the most fortunate thing, of course, is that uh, one has come in contact with Krishna consciousness. So whoever has that great fortune to come in contact with Krishna consciousness, in whatever material condition he may find himself, the answers to dealing with that difficult situation is there. And so we have to take shelter of those of that knowledge and of those persons, means devotees, who are in a practical way living uh, their lives based on that culture, based on that knowledge. Because ultimately, Krishna never puts the living entity in a position that he is totally hopeless. There are many situations which seemingly are hopeless, which are extremely difficult, but Krishna uh, doesn't do that purposely for. I mean, there's always some means of dealing or coping with situations. Unfortunately, most people are not having that knowledge, not having maybe the support needed to face the different obstacles and dangers and crises, because modern day life is full of crises, uh, which are not actually meant to be there. There's the basic crises of life in terms of, you know, we all experience a disease and old age and ultimately having to leave this body. But in modern day society, added on. We've added on to a very high degree all kinds of very difficult situations, and therefore, unless one is in proper knowledge, proper knowledge means one will be able to develop the proper consciousness to deal with whatever may come our way. Yeah. Okay, I think yes. Wow. Jai Grantaraj Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Prabhupada Ki
Jai
Gaur Pimanandi.
Jagannath Bhakti Ram Maharaj ki Jai.